Okay, Connor, I read the two reports on Dublin Live and Dublin Inquirer last week about your calls for the Luas lines on the south side of Dublin to be extended. For the benefit of any of our listeners, Connor, who may not know about this story, can you fill them in on your calls, please?
Sure. So we had this land bank saved in Dunleary to actually finish a circle of the M50 around the entire city. So that was the original plan dating about 30 years ago. Over time, as things developed, I think the thinking has changed, and moving away from car-centred approaches, we're looking now at more efficient approaches, which are sustainable transport. Things like more buses, more trains, more bikes, and people walking. So where we had land, significant amount of land reserved, we weren't allowed to build on it. Now we're looking at how this land should be used if it's not going to be a motorway in the middle of, suburban Dublin. And what has come out of this study is the best use of the land is for a new Luas line, and that would be able to move the most amount of people the most efficient way. So this Luas line would come from Stephen's Green, out through Donnybrook, out along the N11, past and into UCD, then coming up and up through Churchtown, onto Stillorgan, and meeting the existing Green Line there. But the plan also includes a further extension to that Luas Green Line from Cherrywood onto Bray, and that basically is the big change.
And this is not just your call and the Green Party's call. Am I right in saying this is actually a report by Cllr Rathdown County Council, is it?
That's exactly it. So obviously it's in line with what the Green Party would put forward as policy, but this is actually a completely separate, unbiased consultation report that's come back to the council, and they've put forward a range of solutions that could be looked at, but this combined Luas with a greenway is the preferred option.
Yeah, I think it'd be fantastic to have the Luas extended to Bray. You yourself must think it would be fantastic as well, yeah?
Yeah, I'm completely on board with it. I think a number of people, certainly in my area, would have been pretty upset, obviously, with the likes of Dublin Bay, where we have Booterstown Marsh, the bay itself, all being dug up, either with a tunnel under the ground, under the bay, or for a big bridge to be put out there. So I think people are pretty passionate about it, and I think a Luas like this would be a great solution. But the important thing from just a logistical point of view is that the engineers' report highlighted that the Green Line itself will reach capacity by 2030. So we're going to need something to help with that issue, and this would really take a lot of the pressure off the existing Green Line as well.
Okay, it was not very long ago, Conor, that the Green Party were in government. Am I right in saying that, like on a national level, your party are very disappointed with the approach that the current government has to transport in Ireland?
Yeah, I'd say that's completely right, Darren. Basically, when we went into government, one of the key, I suppose, progressive things we brought in was that there'd be this 2-to-1 spend on roads versus public transport. So for every euro you're spending on a new road, €2 would be spent on a bus or a train or something like that. As we're not in government anymore, that's been reversed. So it's back to about a 1-to-1 spend. And you've seen a huge amount of projects cancelled all over the country, and there's no real new major public transport project on the horizon that wasn't already planned. So things like Finglas Luas, Dart South West, these are projects that were ready to go and have now been shelved again. You have other projects nationally down in Galway and Cork, calls for things like a connector to the Shannon Airport. All of these have been pushed out. So while we know the answer to public transport, or to congestion rather, in Dublin, is these public transport options, they're not getting the backing to go ahead with them.
Okay, Conor, how likely do you think it is that the Luas line will be extended to Bray and work will start on the project over the next few years?
The problem, Darren, I suppose, because we're not backing existing projects and giving them the funding they need, the government is just pushing out everything that we need to do to actually make our city work again. So you have the M50 as an absolute car park. the only way to move that amount of people efficiently is on trains and buses and public transport that moves people rapidly. But we're just, pushing the can down the road. So look, at very best case scenario, I'd see a project like this being back in, say, 2042 is in the plan. But I realistically, it'll be a little bit longer than that, to be honest, the way the funding is going at the moment.
Well, unless there's a change of government and there's change of priorities, yeah?
Well, this is just it. Yeah, absolutely.